a high-quality knowledge podcast for hitchhikers traveling the galaxy. This is Lab 42.
Today, we're looking at a stack of sources that I have to admit, at first glance, seems to be about the most boring subject on Earth.
Logistics.
I mean, yeah. Shipping manifests, insurance policies.
Engineering diagrams for crates, physics papers on vibration.
Right. But the second you start reading, you realize this is not about moving, boxes of cereal. The mission for today's deep dive is to uncover this invisible, super high-stakes world of fine art logistics.
Exactly. We're talking about how you take an object that is, literally irreplaceable.
Right.
Often incredibly fragile, worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and then move it maybe 4,000 miles without it changing even on a molecular level.
And to really get why this is such a nightmare, we have to start with this one story from the notes that absolutely blew my mind. It's 1962, December 14th. We're in Paris.
A very, very cold Paris, I think the notes said.
Freezing.
Yeah.
And the French government announces they're going to pack up the Mona Lisa and send her on a little vacation to the U.S.
And the art world's reaction was not, oh, wonderful.
No, it was, you are insane. It was absolute panic. Curators called it madness.
Well, you have to understand, the Mona Lisa isn't just paint on canvas. It's on a thin panel of poplar wood. And by 62, she was, 450 years old?
So she's old, but wood is tough, isn't it? We build houses out of it.
Not this kind of wood.
Yeah.
And not under these conditions. The sources describe her state as thermodynamic instability.
That sounds like something out of a nuclear reactor, not a museum.
It's actually a pretty good comparison, risk-wise. Poplar wood is organic, it's hygroscopic.
Meaning it breathes.
It breathes, it takes in moisture from the air, it expands, it dries out, it shrinks. But the oil paint on top of it, after 4 centuries, that stuff is basically glass.
Oh, I see where this is going. So if the wood underneath moves, but the glass on top doesn't?
Crack, shatter, flake off. It's a perfect recipe for disaster. They were terrified. One sharp change in temperature, just one, would cause the wood to warp and her smile would literally crack off her face.
But the politicians, they didn't care. André Malraux, the Minister of Culture, had this famous line, art shouldn't be a prisoner.
So they packed her up.
And I love the details on how she traveled. They didn't just stick her in a cargo hold.
No, absolutely not. She was treated like a head of state. They put her on the SS France, a luxury liner. She had her own first-class cabin.
They literally strapped the crate to a bed.
They did, to cushion the motion of the ocean.
And when she got to New York, it was a massive success. The notes say 63,675 people saw her in a single day.
A total cultural phenomenon. But, and this is the key to our whole deep dive today, there was a physical toll.
Right.
Not on the painting at first, on the people. It was a freezing winter in New York. Teenage girls were waiting outside for hours in the cold. Then they get inside the museum, which is all warm and toasty.
For the painting's sake, as much as the visitors.
Exactly. And what happens? The girls started fainting. Their bodies just couldn't handle that rapid thermal shift.
Thermal shock.
Thermal shock. And that is the perfect setup. If a living, breathing teenager crashes just from walking through a door, what do you think happens to a 450-year-old piece of wood?
It's the central problem, isn't it? The whole idea of integrity.
Yes. In normal logistics, the goal is efficiency, cost. For movies, it's speed, just in time. But for art, it's creating what they call a tunneling effect.
Tunneling.
You want the object to move from Paris to New York, physically, but you want it to exist in an isolated system. Scientifically, the change in its internal energy needs to be zero.
So the art should never even know it left the wall.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You have to convince the painting it's still at home, even when it's doing 60 on the New Jersey Turnpike. And the first enemy you have to fight is vibration.
The road trip factor.
Yeah, right.
I mean, we've all been in a car that rattles, so they just drive really carefully.
Oh, it's way more than that. It's about physics. And this is where the notes correct a really common myth. For years, everyone thought the big enemy was resonance.
I know this one. The Tacoma Narrows Bridge. That video where it wobbles like a ribbon until it just snaps.
The classic example. My physics teacher said it was resonance.
Yeah, mine too. But the engineering sources here say that's actually wrong. In 1991, they proved it wasn't simple resonance. It was something called aeroelastic flutter.
Aeroelastic flutter. That sounds weirdly gentle.
It's terrifying. See, resonance is about timing, like pushing a swing. Flutter is different. It's a self-excited vibration.
Okay.
Think of a flag in a hurricane. The wind provides energy, and instead of that energy dissipating, it gets trapped. It accumulates inside the structure. It feeds on itself.
So the energy just keeps building up and up.
Exactly, and that's what happens in a truck. It's not the one big pothole that's the problem. It's the million invisible microvibrations. If that energy builds up in the paint layers, you get fatigue failure.
Fatigue failure sounds like me on a Monday.
For art, it looks like crackle, those little spider webs of cracks. Eventually, the paint just gets too tired of shaking, and it lets go of the canvas.
So how do you stop an invisible, self-feeding force? You can't repave the entire world.
You isolate the cargo. It starts with the truck. They don't use normal shocks. They use air ride suspension.
Meaning?
The truck bed is literally floating on these giant bellows of compressed air. It's a floating platform. The kinetic energy from the bumps gets converted into heat and just disappears. It doesn't become mechanical shaking.
So the truck is basically a hovercraft. But what about the box itself? I was reading about the foam and this term impedance mismatch. A mismatch sounds like a mistake, you know?
Right. You'd think you want everything to match.
But not in wave physics. This is brilliant. Think about soundproofing. If you just use one type of soft foam, the sound waves vibrations can travel right through it. It's an easy path.
Oh, okay.
But if you make a sandwich hard plastic, then soft foam, then hard plastic again, you're creating boundaries, different densities.
And when the wave hits a boundary?
It gets confused. When a vibration wave hits that mismatch in density, it reflects, it breaks up, it can't transmit. So by layering different foams, you trap the energy at the borders.
You're building a maze the vibration can't solve.
Exactly. The packaging sacrifices itself to save what's inside.
That's amazing.
Okay.
So we've stopped the shaking, but we still have the problem that made the girls faint. Temperature and humidity.
The climate problem.
Yeah.
The diagrams and the source material for these crates, they call them turtle crates. They look like spaceship parts.
That's the whole philosophy, the turtle strategy. Tough on the outside, soft and stable on the inside. The goal is to build an artificial womb.
Okay, artificial womb is a very specific and kind of creepy phrase.
It works, though, because chemically the art is alive. You said the wood breathes. If the humidity drops, the wood shrinks. If it rises, it swells. Do that too many times, you get hysteresis.
Hysteresis?
It's when a material basically loses its memory, it deforms, and it just forgets its original shape. It stays warped forever.
So you have to keep the humidity perfect. But here's my question. A crate is sitting on the tarmac in Dubai. It's 110 degrees. Then it flies to London, and it's 40 and raining. You can't plug a crate into a wall on a plane? How do they run the AC?
You don't. You can't.
Don't?
Active climate control needs power. It can break. So they use passive controls. They use materials like ArtSorb.
The notes call this a chemical battery.
It's a great analogy. ArtSorb is a silica material. Before the trip, they condition it to the exact humidity the painting is used to, let's say 50%.
Yeah.
They line the inside of the sealed crate with sheets of this stuff.
That just sits there.
And it works. If the air inside gets too wet, the ArtSorb sucks up the moisture. If the air gets too dry, it releases moisture. It actively fights to maintain that 50% balance just through chemistry. No power needed.
So it's breathing for the painting.
It creates environment transplantation. You're literally taking a chunk of the museum's atmosphere, locking it in the box and sending it on a trip. So inside that crate, even in Dubai, it's still a mild spring day in Paris.
That is just wild. Okay, so we've beaten physics, we've beaten the weather, now we have to beat the bad guys. Because my first thought with art transit is heists. You know, the Thomas Crown affair. Lasers.
Right, and the movies get that mostly wrong. Stealing the Mona Lisa from the Louvre itself is basically impossible. But the second that painting goes onto a truck, that's the weakest link.
The notes say 90% of insurance claims happen during transit.
That's the moment of vulnerability. And the scary part for a curator is that it's a Schrodinger's cat scenario.
The physics thought experiment, the cat's both dead and alive until you look.
Exactly. Once you seal that crate in Paris, you don't actually know if the painting is safe until you open it in New York. For 12 hours, it exists in this state of pure uncertainty. Was it swapped? Did it break? Is it even in there?
That would drive me nuts. So how do they check? Do they just cross their fingers and hope?
They use the chain of custody. This is the human element. You have couriers, people whose entire job is to be the museum's eyes. They will ride in the jump seat of the truck. They sit in the cargo hold of the plane.
Wait, they sit in the cargo hold? With the luggage? Isn't that freezing?
It can be, but their eyes never leave that box. They watch every single handoff. It's incredibly boring, but it makes sure no one gets a 10-minute window to swap the painting.
And I saw they have some high-tech stuff too, proof of life tech.
Oh yeah, synthetic DNA.
Which sounds like something out of Jurassic Park.
It's basically forensic tagging. They can dab a microscopic dot of synthetic DNA or maybe invisible ink on the back of the frame. When the crate arrives, they scan it. If that DNA signature doesn't match, you know you have a problem.
That is incredible. But my favorite part of this was the trucks, because I'm picturing an armored convoy, police escorts, sirens.
And that can happen for, major state treasures, but usually that is the absolute worst thing you can do. It's called security through obscurity.
Being invisible.
If you drive a truck with priceless art inside, painted on the side, you're just putting a rob me sign on it.
Mm-hmm.
So the pros use low-profile strategies, nondescript white vans.
The notes mentioned disguising them as fresh food delivery trucks.
Protective coloration. Think about it. You hijack a truck, hoping for a masterpiece, you open it up, and it's full of lettuce. It creates doubt. The thieves don't know which truck is the real one.
Boredom is the best camouflage.
Exactly. I love that, the spycraft of being boring.
But look, even with all of this, things happen. Accidents happen.
Which brings us to the economics.
Yeah.
And the numbers here are just astronomical.
This is where you get into nail-to-nail insurance.
Meaning?
The policy covers the art from the moment it's taken off the nail in one museum to the moment it hangs on the nail in the next. No gaps. But the real headache isn't the coverage. It's the valuation.
And this is where we get philosophical. The ship of Theseus paradox.
Right. The old paradox. If you replace every plank of wood on a ship, is it the same ship? In art, it's if a painting is torn and a master restorer fixes it so perfectly you can't see the damage, is it the same painting?
My gut says yes. If I can't see it, it's fixed.
The art market says no. An emphatic no. This is the concept of depreciation or stigma damage.
Stigma damage? That sounds judgmental. It is. The market judges the piece as damaged goods. Even if it looks perfect, the fact that it was broken means it's lost some of its aura. Its history is compromised.
So the insurance pays for the repair and for the fact that the painting is now, what, less cool?
Pretty much. They pay the restoration costs plus the loss in market value. Let's say a $100 million painting gets a scratch. It costs $100,000 to fix. But now, as a restored piece, the market says it's only worth $70 million. The insurance pays the $100K for the fix, plus the $30 million in lost value.
That's just a staggering amount of money.
And here's the truly weird part. If the damage is a total loss, the insurance pays the full $100 million. And then they take ownership of the wreckage.
Wait, the insurance company owns the shredded remains of a Picasso.
Yes. It's called salvage. And sometimes they sell it. Because even a destroyed masterpiece is still, in a way, a masterpiece. It has value.
That's bizarre. It's like a graveyard for art that isn't quite dead. This all gets so complex.
And then there's maritime law, a concept called general average.
Oh, I read this. This is the old rule for ships at sea.
Ancient law. If a ship is sinking, the captain can legally throw cargo overboard to save the vessel. If he does, everyone with cargo on that ship splits the cost. It's a collective sacrifice to save the majority.
Jettison the cargo to save the ship. Makes sense.
But in art logistics, that is explicitly rejected. You never jettison a masterpiece.
Because it's non-fungible.
Exactly. A container of Nikes is fungible. You can make more. A Da Vinci is singular. The logic is flipped. You don't sacrifice the art to save the system sacrifices itself to save the art. If the ship goes down, you go down holding the box.
That is intense. It completely inverts the logic of survival.
It really does.
So let's zoom out here. What does all this mean? We've got this hidden industry using military-grade tech and forensic science just to move painted wood around the world. Why do we go to these lengths?
I was thinking about that. These logistics experts, they're like dark matter. You can't see them, but they're the gravity holding the entire art world together.
The unseen force.
And their job, if you really boil it down, is negentropy.
Negative entropy.
Yeah. The universe wants disorder. Entropy. It wants things to break, to rot, to fade to dust. That's the natural order. These experts are in a constant, permanent war against that disorder.
That is a beautiful way to put it. They're fighting the decay of the universe itself.
I think of it as a modern Noah's Ark. We're not just moving luxury goods for billionaires. We are preserving cultural DNA. When you move the Mona Lisa or the Rosetta Stone, you're allowing different civilizations to meet across time and space.
The 450-year-old Italian woman meeting the teenager in 1960s New York.
Exactly. And that emotional connection can only happen if the object survives the journey. The experts use the coldest tools we have, physics, chemistry, contracts, to preserve the hottest thing we have, human emotion, creativity. They build this fortress of cold reason around a kernel of pure feeling.
That's a really powerful thought. We think of logistics as just moving boxes, but here it's the guardian of our collective history. It's the invisible fortress keeping the past alive for the future.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, next time you're at a museum, take a second, look past the painting, think about the insane journey it took. The air ride trucks, the chemical batteries, the fake lettuce vans. It's almost as impressive as the art itself.
Almost.
Almost. Thanks for diving in with us. Still curious, everyone.
That's all for today's episode of Lab 42. If you enjoyed this story of impossible engineering, leave us a review. Safe travels, hitchhikers. See you in the next galaxy.